Hi.
What's going on?
So it looks like, oh yeah, I have it in here. So I will be working with crevices today to make some mineral crevices, and I was thinking of using these in my own projects, not for excavation, but just as a way for like a variety of different doodads, right? The idea being that you have some of them will not have any minerals and some of them will. That's probably how I'm going to use them. But I also realize it might end up being confusing for people who play Hydra and then they go and play, you know, Overlord, iquare's project, and they actually have a gameplay function. So I may end up making like a variety or a change. Like maybe for mine they'll be smaller in terms of the minerals that are there or something. But we'll see. Starting relatively simply today. Okay, so I guess we'll just do this. Turn off that for a sec. We've got our bit. Oh, I'm sampling all layers instead of apparently. I was gonna say, that seems wrong. I don't want them to be too bright because they are meant to be a little bit further down, but let's see. And obviously I can always fine-tune some stuff after. That looks alright, I think. Notice that I'm not touching the edge of things. That would be a bad idea, I think. To try to detail around the edges, because then you've got to worry about tiling and like matching it up. And I can only imagine that that would be a long and arduous journey. So we're gonna take the baby's way out for that one. I guess I should throw in a small bit over here. Try to make it obvious that it's like jutting out a little bit from the ground. There you go. Yeah, I actually think that sells it just by itself. We'll have to wait and see, of course, but... Alright. So we're gonna take this layer cut mineral type. Is that type 1? No, that's type 2. We're gonna do like different versions depending on what we're doing here. So we're gonna take this and copy that over as well. Just delete this. Mineral type 1. That's what we'll use for the next one, and I guess because I might as well, I'll grab the mineral type 3. We're not using the third frame, but we are using the frame that has 3 in it, because that's the 4th frame. So that's 3. In case you were wondering. Alright. You know what I should do is group all this stuff together. And then I should quickly mask out oh wait, there is a mask over here already. I don't know what that actually amounts to. But I'm gonna say no on that one. We'll manually do it for this. But this will be like my cleanup mask after a certain point. I think that's fine, generally speaking. Yeah, nothing really seems out of place per se. Where possible, I'm trying to match the original style of the shadows. But Blizzard was pretty inconsistent with them, so I don't know how the results will end up playing out or panning out. I wish there was an option for sampling the current group in for the clone tool. That would be handy. The fuck? Oh. Control Z'd one too many times. Oh. Let's just start over because I think I lost something associated with that. They really did a epic remix with this one. Hey, what's up, Connor? Trying to stay away from the boundaries of the tiles, like I was talking about earlier. It's a no-go zone. It's probably set to unlisted again because YouTube is functional. Yeah, it is. I just fixed it. Thank you for the heads up. Trying to figure out, like, I had a pretty good amount of success the first time I was doing this. The tile to the left of me looks really good, I think. But this one I'm stalling out a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out like where is the struggle originating from? Trying to triage that. I'm putting mineral graphics inside the crevices. Obviously, in maps, they end up they wound up being like what's the situation? Like they're decoration for around mineral fields and stuff, and as well as Vespine geysers. I would like to do some sort of gas theme one as well, but like green Vespine or whatever. But that one thing at a time. This one's obviously easier to do. And less likely to get fucked around with by the tiles palette. But iquare needs these for a different reason than what I'm going to use them for. I'm going to use these for general decoration. Like, basically having some variety in the tiles that you'll end up seeing. And I think he's just going to use them to show minerals that can be excavated. So you'll be able to use some sort of unit or mechanic or ability, and instead of mining minerals, you'll find these crevices out there, and you'll be able to excavate them into a like a full mineral field or something. You know, maybe it'll be a low yield mineral field, but it'll be something where you can basically create resources from terrain objects, and it's an interesting idea. I came up with some similar idea. I don't remember which one of us had the idea first, but I had the idea that there would be some sort of excavation thing in Brood War Hydra. Obviously, Brood War Hydra is not happening anymore, so it's kind of not, no longer a thing. But the fuck? Because Brood War, for one, I don't like Brood War. It's just a shitty game. Like, the maps are all gimmicks and the story is really dumb. So I was going to have to do way more work with Brood War than I have to do with Vanilla in terms of like trying to take it more seriously. But for another, it's a lot of work to do on something that isn't even really my original creation in the first place. So I would rather work on my own custom campaigns, or like you said, my own game, as opposed to working on a remake, more of a remake. I'm fine doing Hydra because I view it as a worthy experiment, but it's way too far off to tell if it would be worthwhile to invest time into Brood War Hydra, and right now it's definitely looking like a no. I'm sorry to hear that that's how you feel, but you're probably right. I mean, maybe a really boring movie. Oh yeah, I did that with a different layer. I should just merge these. Current and below. I can't really do current and below in this setup. Whatever. It's not that big of a deal. There we go. How long is Nemesis now? I don't know what you mean by that. Nemesis isn't a length. It's just individual maps. Fuck. I think the reason why I'm having difficulty closing the deal here is mostly the shadows being so inconsistent on the other art piece. The second or the first mineral field, shadows are completely off. Or at least they don't really lend themselves well to this kind of attempt at a kit bash. I haven't heard this song in a while. Wait, what do you mean by remaking the whole campaigns? With Nemesis? Nemesis is just like... Oh, I see what you're saying. You thought I was going to make a Nemesis map for every single map. No. I've got some ideas still. I want to do Nemesis. I mean, Nemesis can be Brood War maps too. Like, I don't even care. But obviously, like Nemesis, Eye of the Storm is Stormborn. That'll eventually be reworked a little bit more to be more finished, right? More polished and actually playable. And then you've got Nemesis Omega still, Nemesis Chain. Those two I have good ideas for that I definitively know that those could be fun arcade-style experiences. And then Nemesis... there's a couple of other ones that were strange, that were like oddball ideas. Like iquare had the idea to do, I think it was Homeland. It's the one where you're fighting Alderas's Protoss or whatever. And he had the idea to add a Zerg into the mix, or maybe two, and then have it so that you're fighting, you're defending against Raynor, Phoenix, and Tassadar, as well as Zeratul. You know, like Tassadar and Zeratul could probably be like one faction, or maybe Phoenix would be rolled in there or something. But so, you know, those are the aggressors that are pushing into the territory, and then you're also being harassed by Zerg, and so it's just something like that. I think that could be interesting. But it's not as attractive to jump into right now because from the player character perspective, you don't have a wide variety of people to play, factions to play as, which is kind of the same reason why Stormborn went the way it did, where Stormborn obviously like didn't flip the perspectives. It changed some shit around where you had Alderas show up, and Cag was there obviously, and so on, and Phoenix was there as an ally, and no Zeratul. However, that being said, you still had the, like, you had characters. Whereas if you were playing as the Overmind, You know, Dagoth, I guess you could have thrown in there. And that was, I think Dagoth was supposed to be in there in the original battle as well. Maybe you could have fanfictioned in Kerrigan again. But, like, there's not really that many people you could have thrown in there to lead. You know, I threw in Kag as an enemy, but if it was just the Overmind and Kag, like, I would need to figure out a third player, probably would be Dagoth. And then, you know, that would have to be its own thing, so who knows what'll really happen with that, but... Now, as I recall... hold on. Oh, hold on. We'll just do this. So, as I recall, most of these are actually very similar in terms of... I think there was 8 unique crevice doodads, right? So, if that's the case, we're 2/8 of the way, 1/4 of the way done. Because most of these are not actually distinct. So, 1, 2... So I know the first 3 are distinct. This one too. So the first 4 are good. 5, 6. Okay. So we know for the foreseeable future, yeah, the first 8 are actually unique, and then I think it repeats after that. It's like this is the same as the third. So the 9 is the same as 3. 10 is the same as 4. 11 is the same as 5. And yeah, 12 is the same as 6. So, in that context, I don't mind just completely replacing these last 4 with that. So I don't think there's really any necessity to have more than that. Alright. It always gets me that there's that enormous chunk missing from the mineral field. Can't believe that's real. Also, DF said that said yesterday that the scout was rendered with perspective on, and if that is true, that is the most fucking insane thing I've heard about Brood War. Worse than all the code. Worse. That is probably the most damning thing that you can say about a 2D RTS. That it had a unit rendered with perspective. Fucking Christ. Ooh boy. Might be true though. That's the scary part. All right. It's going to be a long road, boys. We'll get there, though. Actually, I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time in Photoshop, I think, in the coming next week and stuff. Just because there's really not much for me to do AI-wise. I can work on some new maps. Like, I can work on new Hydra maps or, like, outlines or whatever terrain. But not much more than that. Because we need so many AI fixes. It's one of those things that's fairly cyclical. I'm going to record a dead call later today that will probably cover this. Where I'll get a little bit of progress, updating or refactoring certain aspects of the AI. And then it'll sort of come to a halt because we run into some technical limitation that we did not foresee. So usually what happens with this stuff is you expose the need for further work on the engine. And as epic as that is, to get significant progress done, it's like you're 90% of the way there to having whatever the new system is you need, and the last 10% of the work that needs to be done is the difference between having something that functions and having something that does not function. You know what I mean? Like, something that still looks like it's so far away from being done. But in reality, we are much closer than we ever have been before, and it's not like a meaningless, "of course you are because you worked on it at all" statement. It's like, that's real. And so, as irritating as it can be at times, it's pretty good in this case. What's up, Ultralisk? I see you're having some fun. Hope it's not too bad. I'm sure it's just very monotonous. Redundant means serves a purpose that's already been filled by something else. Like a redundant system is like, oh, something else already does this. You don't need this system in place because you already have something that does that exact thing. So I don't know if he meant a different word. Or if he just meant that it's, like, pointless. That's how he was using the word. Right. Could be. Hey. All right, 3/8 of the way there. This is dumb. Apparently, if you lose your sense of smell suddenly, you're supposed to immediately check yourself in. That's a rare but very specific symptom. All Ultralisk needs is some creep, and he'll be set. Sustain himself off of the corpses of his foes. For he has evolved Saber Siphon. I don't know why, but it's just so fucking easy to make them look okay, at the very least, if not really good. When I'm using that, the one that I just used as a base. It's so easy. A little bit of manual coloring here. Yes, I do fancy myself an artiste. An artiste. The R is silent. Yeah, what I hope is that apparently there's been like some serious collapses in a few places, like Ecuador and what was the other one? Hungary's going totalitarian or something, is what I've heard. Don't know if that's accurate. Somebody a bit closer to it might be able to shed some more light on that. Get those highlights in, man. Gotta have those highlights. I always want to be careful about what the fuck. Careful. I will always want to be careful about spreading potentially fake news, even though I'm a self-described American, to put it nicely. So I don't want to just regurgitate shit that I've heard without checking into it, at least without significantly warning that, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Somebody else might know more. Look into it. But these are indeed crazy times. I think what I need most in this kit bash experiment, I need to be able to relatively easily like get a shape down. And once I have the shape, I think I'm good. I can like recolor it and paint highlights and stuff. But working within a canvas is a little bit more challenging. Which I guess is, I mean, that's kind of like anything, I imagine. It's nice, easier to get the details looking the way that you need when you have some rough sketch. So I'm trying to think a little bit more actively about like some of the shortcomings that I have when it comes to making digital art. And I think I'm getting better at figuring out what needs to happen as far as like say, I'm getting better at identifying the problem with a graphic. Being like, oh, maybe this is why it's not working. Or at least like what I think might be the problem. I'm getting better at that part. And even better at like figuring out a potential fix to it, right? But I'm still not very good at handling stuff like manually painting details or whatever. And like shaping stuff. That part needs work as far as my repertoire is concerned. But yeah, I'm trying to think a bit more actively about that. Because I feel like one of the things that I've said for a really long time is that I'm just not an artist. And that is true. in the sense of like I'm not trained. But I think so long as you are actually trying to do work, right? Like, yeah, somebody who is trained better would do a better job, in theory. But they're not doing a job. They're not doing the work right now. I am, so kind of a hair-splitting situation. But I do think that kind of speech made... it's one of those things that just makes you... Like, it saps at your confidence or your I don't want to say self-worth, because I don't really have self-esteem issues. It's just that I always viewed it as like an open admission of what I can and can't do, and like understanding my own weaknesses and stuff, which I thought was like positive. And I think it's good to be realistic, but also I think the flaw that I had was like I treated it as if it was always going to be that way, as if it was like a static thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm just not an artist, so it's like, well, I can probably learn if I try. Same thing with programming or whatever. So I'm just trying to come up with like actual ways that maybe I can form a plan and come up with something. To solve this conundrum. Hey, what's up, iquare? Well, it's good to at least have something going for you, as far as fixes are concerned. Alright, with that, I think we're halfway done. I'd add like a tiny detail over here. That's pretty epic. You wanted to pick up drawing, but doing it on your own is hard. I feel like there's probably a whole bunch of books and stuff that you can potentially use to help yourself out with that, but I'm not really sure. Oh, you know what? Before I move on from this, I should fix that up a little bit. Yeah, I just wanted it to look a bit more like 3 separate chunks instead of one chunk going down here and a bigger one over there. So. We'll get our shape down. You need a few variants for it, or what do you think? Right. Well, that's the thing too, is like the how to describe it? I got paralyzed, I think is a good way to describe it. Like, paralysis by fear of not learning the right way. Because as soon as I realized, oh, it's possible to learn stuff the wrong way, for me it was like, oh shit, you know, I don't have the ability to know, like, what is the right way to go for a lot of this stuff. And so, a lot of the resulting inaction on my part was entirely sourced, or a significant portion of it was just because, like, I was too scared to learn bad habits and then fix them, because I thought that would take more time. But it's like a fallacy, just because of the fact that you don't... It's not like you can choose to say, like... Well, you can fix it, and it's not like by not learning the potentially not ideal habit first, you are consigning yourself to fate of never being able to update your technique. It's like people update their techniques all the time. Like I do it myself all the time, and yet I still felt the same way. I was like, oh, I don't want to learn the wrong thing here. So I know what you're saying. I had the same kind of feeling. But looks all right. Right. Yeah, if you want to do... I mean, pen drawing is almost seen as like an antiquated thing now, but obviously it can still be pretty useful. To get the basics down in that context. I'm definitely learning more by doing more of this shit by hand, that's for sure. Even though it takes much longer and might be a failed experiment at the end of the day. Well, I just mean like if you wanted to do something with it for more than just fun, you know, concept art or paintings or whatever. It's definitely people out there that would pay handsomely for your services. I guess I'll have to do some small shading shit like this. Yeah, that makes it a little bit less jarring to see the like that. I don't know about that one. Intro cutscene will show scavengers mescaloiding the miner base, using large attack forces of these fighters. Later, when mission starts, scavengers will not have pre-placed brigades, or 1 to 2, destroy doodads nearby, implying that scavengers fought with some enemy and lost their attack force. I see. What is the most fitting way to show AI having established presence in the region without using pre-placed units? Well, it's less about the AI and more about the faction. So you can work that into both. Like there's two layers of abstraction. So for example, if you're supposed to have a situation where you know, you've got, say, you know what I can do? Add a little bit more implied depth over here. Hold on one sec. Let me collect my train of thought here. There we go. Looks a bit more natural now. On the left. The right is still fucking with me, but I don't really know what to do about it. It's like, so basically, if you have, like, say, you're trying to show dominance of a Terran faction, right? Not even dominance, but just like that they've got a pre-placed presence or a pre-established presence in the map. You have to kind of think of what makes sense to incorporate from a what's the term? Like What would the civilian structures be? See you later, Alexander Praetor. So, pre-established presence, right? So, if you've got a Terran faction, what would they do for military sake? What would they be setting up, right? So this could be like, you know, supply structures, not like supply depots, but basically doodads that, or terrain objects that fulfill a logical purpose in the story of like, or rather in the setting of what would happen. So a real military will set up like structures to, like garages basically, or vehicle depots or something to house their vehicles, their excess vehicles. And obviously like aircraft hangars and stuff like that to house whatever they're not immediately using. And then they'll have like supply tankers or something, oil drums to store certain natural resources that they've harvested. Any sort of supply center that provides military construction materials or something like that. Now, a lot of this stuff sounds very technical, and it sounds like if you include it, you'll be running the risk of players wondering why these terrain objects are not being used for the sake of a military purpose. But I would say that including a little bit of that is better because of implications of what the military were doing there. They weren't just sitting there on their thumbs waiting for the player to show up. They were setting up extra production related materials. Now, they weren't setting up extra production structures, but you can also have them do that. Like, the idea of you sieging a military area where there's a lot of pre-established presence, there should be both story setting based materials that improve the environmental storytelling and tell a more concrete environmental story than what you were experiencing before. You should be going for something like that, but you should also probably have some sort of gameplay themed explanation for what their status actually is, right? So starting an AI off with 4 workers in a command center is telling you that this AI just arrived, right? So by the same metric, starting the AI off with a more impressive base that maybe has like 2 barracks and an engineering bay or something, as well as a missile turret here and there, a couple supply depots, maybe a bunker. This stuff is a pretty big initial advantage for the AI to have, but it makes sense in the context of the story. And then your challenge is to balance out the advantage that AI has in a fair way, right? Blizzard kind of tried to do this in True Colors in the Brood War map, although I don't think the motivation was the same as what we're talking about. I think they were just trying to incorporate as many gimmicks as possible. But in True Colors, they have the AI have all of this pre-placed shit, and then they do nothing with it until, at 5 minutes or whatever after the timer runs out. Then they start to actually function. So in that sort of context, you've got an example of an AI doing very little in the way of action, right? And so what this translates as far as story materials, you've just got a military faction that's sitting on their thumbs doing nothing. They're mining with like 2 SCVs. They're not even really responding when they're under attack. It's like alarms aren't being set off or something. It's completely unbelievable. And it paints them all as complete idiots. And when you have a situation like that, I feel like you're really reaching. So it's actually better if you are going to start off the player at a disadvantage in terms of pre-play stuff. That should be a situation where they have some tools to respond, but they should be pressured early on. And so in that situation, you want the AI to use everything that they do have pre-placed to the best of their ability, as opposed to what True Colors has, you believe. And so, like, I think the best excuse that you can come up with for that is, like, maybe it's a 1v2, or it's a 1v1v1 free-for-all. And so the AI, with a lot of pre-play stuff, has to worry about you and another player, or something like that. That's how I handle it in Hydra. The first Terran mission, it has Brass is going to be Randall, and Zaz are going to be the AIs. Or no, it's Randall and Gorn. So the Brass player and the Chestnut Zerg player are going to be set up already and have already done battle. And so there's already going to be like a barracks, a bunker, a couple depots, maybe even an engineering bay or an academy, and probably like 10 SCVs or something. And that's what Brass will start out with. And then you'll have the Gorn, who starts out with about the same, but is much more dangerous because it's the Brood is being led by a Cerber that's seen a lot of battle. And so you're going to immediately see an outclassing, even though you'll probably have some scouting materials, maybe a pre-placed comstat for Brass, or he gets it early and he scans Gorn, and you'll be able to see he doesn't actually have that much in terms of starting shit. And you'll be able to then witness that Gorn is just outclassing Randall right now, and you need to help him, and stuff like that. So that's one way that you can do it. Obviously, in the first Protoss mission, which isn't released, there's a situation where you have Phoenix and Dagoth fighting, and they have a pre-established presence. And then you go from there to working with the other newcomers, right? So it's very similar to the first Terran mission by that stretch, by that logic. So yeah. I was thinking about actually working on a mapcraft submission, but I'm glad I decided to do this instead. Because this will be useful for my stuff and for iquare's stuff. Oh yeah, and then you asked me some other question. How, in your opinion, island transport-based missions should be handled in Brood War and RTS overall? Well, the problem is, the game engine is not... the way that transports work do not... because they're so APM-focused, they kind of make it so that islands can't be the primary mechanic. Like, you need to have some central land masses that are used and connected and feel like they're linked to all of the other maps, right? That needs to happen. That is a requirement. So when you have a situation like that, that's just because in order to actually transfer your army, you have a huge amount of APM necessary to... and resources to build a sufficient amount of transports, mind you, but also an APM to get your units in and then land, and like it's a very prolonged process. So one of the things that I was thinking about is a capacity upgrade, a transport capacity upgrade. And I don't know if this would be for any race, like for a generic upgrade for all races, the same way that like ship plating is an upgrade for all races or whatever. But it would basically, it would still be, there'd still be risk associated with, because then you know, say you've got 12 space in your dropship now, you can have 12 Marines in there. Well, if that dropship goes down, you're down 12 fucking Marines as well as the dropship instead of just 8 before. So it adds more risk in theory, but I think it would be a superior method of allowing something like that. So that's like a change to the game style or the limitations or whatever of the current setup, but that's something that I think will help. Otherwise, I think there needs to be like... I think there needs to be breathing room between islands. So by that I mean stuff like... you need to be able to say... Trying to come up with like a good example off the top of my head. You need to be able to have like, say there are mandatory islands where say that the AI enemies of the map, it's like a 1v2 and both enemies are on islands. Or in order to get to their mains, or like one of their naturals or something, like a very important area to take control of and to deny the AI access to or whatever, a place of high importance is an island, or is on an island. If you're ever in a situation like that, you need to be able to separate that out. So, yes, that's the case, but once you land at that area, you also have access to a bunch of other areas that branch out from there. So island hopping is still a requirement, but once you get there, you only have to hop to a few locations instead of a bunch of them. Another thing you can do is just incentivize drop play naturally by having like Hydra and stuff. Like this happens in melee maps all the time, that there's drop play incentivized by way of the map design. And I would say that that's a superior method to making it mandatory, but if you do want an island-style map, then I would say the way to go, generally speaking, has been to... Yeah, I think islands, mandatory islands, when they're a small aspect of the map, and they're like used as a way to like add value or change the conception of a certain area, I think they can be, that's like a positive utility for them. I just don't think that they are cut out for all maps, or that they should be a significant aspect of every map. You're having some fun then, Don. Not a fan of island maps either. Right, you're paying to translate Raynor's existence. Just fuck my shit up, man. Why not, man? Who else is gonna teach them the important stuff? It's gotta be you. This is what you were meant for. You didn't know it when you were born, but Metzen prophesized it. Imagine getting told to write a story. I wonder if any of your students will recognize it. They'll probably be like, "Oh, Starcraft 2 was my favorite game." Yeah. I'll make a poll, I suppose. I love my reaction polls. It's great. Oh yeah, I guess we could try an old FPS. I don't know what we would get. I guess Doom or something. I like that. Well, I just pinged Dynamo. Maybe he'll respond with the goods. Get a black dog, by the way. What is wrong with people? All right, see you later, Connor. Smoochies. What do you mean? That was random. Oh, you mean from when I was from the Half-Life? Wait, I didn't even say that was random. You said that was random. That wasn't me. You trying to do, huh? Trying to fraud me? Poison, by the way. Oh. Well, if you have a timestamp, I can grab it. I am the dark. Where's that from? I have to get that guy from Warlords Battlecry 3 that says, "I am the void." In fact, I wonder if I can just find the audio in plain files. History. Sound FX. Not quite. Data. Bing? What is Bing? That's not really what I was looking for, dummy. I don't know, man. I thought there was a Battlecry sound pack on started.net actually. Let me see. Trying to search on this website brings the whole network down. So. That was a Battlecry sound. Yeah, I was looking for the audio. Let's see what we find. Yeah, because it's called Bing.wav. Maybe there's assets. Oh, it's called soundfx.xcr. I have no idea how to open those. I forget. Search Warlords Battlecry modding tools. Maybe this will be it. The fuck? So those are buildings. Egg destroyed. That's not allowed. Well, this does not have all of the unit responses, only the building ones. Ow. My ears. That one hurt. Alright, let's find something else. Sound FX, by the way. It wouldn't be in dialogue data. This is BMP's. What the fuck? Dat! English. Oh, game speech. No, that's system files. Mercenaries? It's blank. There's nothing in it. What the fuck? Well, it's not blank, but something is fucked up. Where is it then? God damn it. Yeah, I should make a Battlecry map at some point when I extract all the graphics. But porting them to Brood War is really annoying, so we'll see what happens. Honestly, I have no idea where the audio might be. Sides? Oh, here it is. Alright, they were Dark Dwarves' voices. So, here we go. How do I extract again? Alright, hold on. So this is like SFX. And then we'll do Dark Dwarves voices.
There is no escape. Kargoth guides me.
Hurry!
Oh wait, that's him.
I am the instrument. My soul. I am the void.
That's him! Oh, if you can send me that tool, iquare, that'd be great. I found him.
I am the dark.
What the fuck? Wait, what game is that even from? Oh, it's from Battle Realms. Was that a unit selection, or was that a... Oh no, that was from the ending cutscene, right? Alright. Well, I have Eye on the Void. Where is it? Did I already close it?
Burn. I am the void.
Epic. The Rice game, yeah.
I am the void. I am the void.
There you go. It's been frequency fucked. Ready for mixed play. Well, at least I'll have plenty of dialogue in the future. Oh, boy. Yes, he really says it. That's some guy from Warlords Battlecry 2. First sighted there. I am taking the files from Battlecry 3. But same idea. I assume the dragons are Srathi. So let's go ahead and grab those. Ah, shit. AMD Radeon settings. Oh wait, actually, this might just be dragon, yeah, because they have like neutral things or whatever. Wait, what? Why am I not surprised? Wait, where is it? AMD Radeon settings? Get out of here. How many more do I have to do anyway? We get... Oh, I scrolled way down. Holy shit. What was the other one? Default voices.
All shall perish. Kargoth guides me.
Oh. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's not the right one.
Fear me. Nobody stands before us.
Noted.
Dumb. Okay. I'll get the rest later. We have the most important one, which is I am the void. Welcome to my meme. Alright, back to this.
am the dark. I am the dark.
Well, we have that isolated anyway. I'll see if there's just a sample of that man's voice somewhere. It's pretty fucking silly. One more to go, then I'll update the others. Right, yeah, that's why I'm thinking, Malia, we gotta find the... I uninstalled the game, I'm pretty sure. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Might have to reinstall the game to grab the audio. Gee, there's all these Indian blogs that want to give me free games when I search for audio rip. I wonder what those are all about. They're probably trustworthy. Well, that search turned up nothing. Oh yeah, what's up, Ilya? Dominion is Storm over Gift 3. I actually have that. I think I have an ISO for that. Let me see. Yeah, Dominion Storm over Gift 3. That was the game that apparently had a bunch of fake screenshots associated with it, and that was one of the main reasons why Starcraft became an isometric RTS instead of just a reskin of Warcraft. Some fun facts for you. At least that's what the Blizzard devs said in an interview at some point. Ex-Blizzard devs, mind you. Dynamo sent me some shit. Well, iquare, how does it feel to almost be the proud owner of some mineral crystals? Fuck, English. I did it again, boys. I Englished once again. Right, it'll be like their specialty. Not a bad time for this track to come on and give me some much needed energy. Some enthusiasm. I think that came out pretty well. Just brighten up some of the colors over here. And then I think like one more darker tile over here should seal the deal. Nice. Well, this is my first real artistry inside Brood War. And it still feels pretty much like a kit bash. Insofar as, you know, the good side of kit bash, which is, you know, it's easier to preserve the initial essence of things. So in that sense, things are looking good, I think. I don't know what that means. But you actually. I don't know what game this comes out of, but don't say that. What's wrong with you? Well, I feel really good about like the last 5 or so, but these first 3 I feel like could definitely be improved. So I guess I'll just find one that has like a lot of color variety, and then I can do that. Definitely have a stronger idea of what I'm doing in this environment, that's for sure. This is like basically a variation of the crevice stuff that I put together for the various tile sets. iquare is going to use them to mark what tiles can be excavated. I'm going to use them as general decoration because I use crevices beneath minerals and as well as beneath gas. At some point I'll do a gas version. But the idea is that they're supposed to indicate, you know, something to the effect of what's, you know, like a small, subtle environmental storytelling aspect, more or less. Alright, so that's been improved. Mostly trying to get the shading down. I will say I definitely feel like I learned a lot when making this, which is nice. Definitely feel better equipped to do stuff like this in the future. Hey, what's up, Veek? Discord is experiencing technical difficulties. Yeah, this is another reason to have the forum as a place for discussion or whatever. I mean, obviously it takes longer to post, you know, a long-winded update. But I think it's superior to potentially never being able to post anything. I was thinking you should probably make a post about your multiplayer mod as an addendum to your thread. I don't know if you actually posted in detail about the co-op stuff and multiplayer stuff that you're doing, or what the status of the project is, or if you just mirrored your Brood War alternate thread from Starda. But I would make a post about, like, here's what I'm working on right now with regards to this, and this is where the future, you know, where we're going in the future. Just an idea, anyway. Right, but being able to put it down there, you know, makes sense. Because I didn't look too closely, I guess, but I'm pretty sure most of what you posted in the current thread on the forum is, like, just a mirror of the other forum threads that are out there. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. Right. And I figured that works out, but following up with, like, what your current plans are would be useful for people. Presumably your shit's going to be in 161 now, so, like, talking about your plans for moving on away from the current project and or any other updates you plan on including. Like, obviously there's still some voice acting that I've got to do. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I just saw that you'd posted that you were in development with some co-op content. That was the one thing that was new to me when I looked at the thread. But presumably that's been there for a while, I don't know. Hey, what's up, Gamator? Or is it Gamator? Welcome. I'm doing pretty well. Hopefully you are too. Staying sane in an insane world. Right now I'm just working on some art. Should be in the final stages of it. Just redoing some of the less high quality work that I had done earlier. This was a pretty successful experiment, though. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Gamator. Oh, okay. That's not what I meant. Yeah, the college work catch-up, well, the catch-up in general with this stuff is going to be real pain in the ass. What gets me is the people who, like, lived on campus or whatever, and they've paid insane tuition at, like, the Ivy League colleges of the world, only to find out that all of their work could have been done remotely, and everything is still fine. They're still learning. Like, obviously, it's probably going to be a lower quality experience overall, but it's really, like, icing on the cake for those people, I'm sure, to realize that all of the insane money that they're spending to live there and to go to these colleges, and they could have done a significant portion of the work at a much cheaper cost in terms of how expensive it is to run everything. Must be an epic realization. Clean this up a little bit. Check out where we're at. Oh yeah, so Don's doing what's it called? A teaching gig, and his assignment for teaching people to translate stuff from English to something else is to translate like the Starcraft manual or something, or scripts from Starcraft or something, which is just like when you start translating Raynor's backstory, that's what you're paying for as far as your education is concerned. Well, at least in America, when you're dealing with colleges, you have to pay for housing. So it's not really you're not paying for the college education at that point. You're just paying to live in a certain area. So you pay for the housing. I mean, your room and board when you're doing dorms, like when you're just in the dormitory, that's probably included in your tuition or something like that. Like they probably roll it in, but it is considered a separate cost. And if you decide to do off-campus housing or on-campus housing, but it's like, well, I guess it would be off-campus housing. It's like when you actually get an apartment as if you were just like a normal person who lived in the city. But you're doing it specifically so that you can have your own space and still go to college. And it's like, so there's like housing that is close to the college. The price for that housing is even more expensive than normal housing. And here, I'm living in New England, and so the cost of living is very, very high, which means rent is very, very high. So you end up getting into a situation where you're spending like even more than like it's already egregious to spend as much money as we spend here for an apartment. But if you were to do that and you get an apartment near a college, that would be even more expensive because of the location being so close to colleges. So yeah, it's like 2 or 3 ratchets up in terms of how expensive it ends up being. Yeah, insane rents, exactly, Molly. Oh, you're doing even worse than the manual. You're translating the novels. Oh no, that's got all sorts. You might as well be telling them to write fan fiction at that point. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? We accelerated the launch pad's constructions because the Americans had started preparing their own rocket. There had never been a technological base for this until yesterday. Before he died, the Emperor had tripled the Black Legion's personnel pool. Those Death Troopers had never seen an actual battle before last night. By the time we located the crash site, the Federal forces had been all over it. The informant had already been expecting us by the time we arrived. We had just installed the radar when the Dragon Patrol spotted us. By the time the enemy fleet spotted her, the Arizona had already deployed fighters. We had already parked 10 armored divisions at their doorstep by the time the imps reacted. The Federation had maintained only minimal presence in the SOCAR system until 2 weeks ago. Why did you write this? Oh, are you trying to tell me that you wrote fan fiction as an assignment? If so, you know, that's dedication to the craft. The craft of shit posting in real life. Oh yeah, selling tractors, of course. Oh yeah, free college works out, I guess. I don't know how people... I mean, there's just so much administrative bloat right now in American colleges, so that's why they're so expensive. Not because they provide a really good service. Well, the biggest issue with the Starcraft novels, in my experience, was that they focused way too much on like the personal dramas instead of trying to use characters to make a conflict more interesting or understandable. It's like you're trying to parse out what is what's happening in the story or whatever. And characters are supposed to be like your through line or your way of experiencing the conflict in a way that you wouldn't be able to with just any old characters. Like, that's what makes good characters, generally speaking, especially in a military story or a story where there's a lot going on. It's like you're able to actually learn from how they respond to events. So it's just like if you go back to all the way down to Star Wars, which is a movie, obviously not a book, but the fact that Luke has no real understanding of everything, he sort of has vague ideas of what things are, like the Force or Jedi or whatever, and he's got aspirations, so he's relatable in that sense. But he's also relatable to the audience because he doesn't know the basics of the universe, and so the audience also doesn't know, and so you're learning with them. Which is also one of the reasons why the prequels were such a shit show by comparison, because they didn't have a fish-out-of-water character to learn with the audience, or for the audience to learn with, I should say. So you end up in a situation where you don't really have a whole lot going for your characters as far as exploring or explaining things goes, right? In books, rather than focus on letting a character be like an anchor for the player, or for the reader in this case, the audience doesn't really get to anchor into the story or the setting, and so things don't mean as much. So they focus way too much on personal dramas and like very small scale operations that in the grand scheme of things were very meaningless. And then of course the characters themselves didn't end up being written in a particularly compelling way anyway on top of it. So on a conceptual level they failed, and on a mechanical level of executing on a flawed concept they failed. So was not wasn't great. That's my review. Like and subscribe for more book reviews and pizza rolls. Oh yeah, that's true. It's self-fiction. Or just also known as just fiction. You got me there, UED. Need a brighter color for that one. I haven't read any of the Star Wars books, so I have no idea what those are like, if that's what you're referencing, Gamador. But it wouldn't surprise me. I think it's just like a fundamental misread of what makes these settings exciting or interesting, or just like novel in any capacity. And I don't mean novel as in book, I mean novel as in new. It's like what makes them intriguing to people is almost like I made this point in a review, I think, for the first Warlords Battlecry game. How one of the things that were interesting to me were only interesting because they weren't explored. And if they were explored, I probably wouldn't like them because they would probably fuck up the exploration part of it. So they would fuck up, like, executing on the idea. The idea is interesting, but if I follow through, if I imagine how they would execute on that idea based on how they execute on other ideas, I would presume that it would not be high quality. So it's like one of those very unfortunate cyclical things where you're like, Thinking.
They will fuck up your face.
Oh yeah, iquare. Gamator is the guy who was commenting about nukes, so you can tell him that he was wrong about them being neutral. Does it even matter if any of the Star Wars books exist anyway, because they all got retconned? I mean, obviously they can still be read and enjoyed, but I am assuming that sours the relationship. The fuck? I don't even think that color is in the index. It's probably one of those colors that accidentally got made by me using the clone tool or whatever. Disney borrows stuff from them, like Grand Admiral Thrawn. Oh. Imagine saying that Extended Universe is non-canon now, and then start borrowing shit from it so you can get fan service points. Oh, well, that's the other thing, right? Is like, isn't Star Wars filled with people like the Wookieepedia or whatever? Isn't that filled with like assumptions as opposed to like they just assume certain things based on what little information is there? Or maybe I'm thinking of something completely different. But I heard that they basically just they're just like, yeah, whatever. Sure, that sounds good. That sounds logical. That's it. Instead of like they read into stuff too much. Come up with their oops. Come up with their fan theories, you know? I mean, fan engagement is important for, like, a series to be, what's it called? Financially solvent and successful. And for ideas to propagate and all that. But I can't help but feel like most people who are blindly devoted to well, anybody who's blindly devoted to anything is probably dumb, but I feel like by and large fandoms are filled with like people you would never want to associate with. People for whom the term people is being stretched or having its definition stretched. You know what I mean? The fuck? That's not the color I was trying to paint at all. You goofball. Oh, I guess it is. Never mind. False alarm. Pixel art, boys. It obviously had its flaws, but I think it got closer to a thing everybody wanted from Star Wars. Wait, what were you talking about? Oh, if you're talking about the prequels, the problem is like I think the prequels had a misread on what Star Wars fans wanted, or what made Star Wars engaging. I mean, the films are so fucking boring. It's just nothing going on. Oops. They were also like the in the movies. They were just scrambling to make something that even remotely came close to making sense. So I agree with your recommendation to completely steer clear. and ignore it. That does seem like the most sensible course of action at this juncture. Alright. These look much better now. I feel like I may have skipped this one down here, though. Yeah, I definitely did. Holy fuck. It's okay. Just fix that. Almost done. Then I get to do something else, like use the bathroom. Oh, Clone Wars. Oh, I was thinking of Attack of the Clones. Man, what? What an embarrassing misstep. Why can't I zoom in anymore, SMH? Well, I think the biggest thing that steered me real fucking clear of that thing was the meme. But and yeah, pretty much because it was so mainstream, I was like, all right, this is some normie shit. But it's also on. I mean, I guess I could just torrent it, but it's on Disney Plus. I'm not paying for a subscription. I honestly don't even have time to watch. There's like TV shows that I actually want to check out. Like, I've heard the 3rd season of Ozark is out now, and it's pretty good, apparently. And I watched the first 2 seasons of that. So, or I think I finished the 2nd season. I don't really recall it, very much of it. But I would be interested in checking it out. But I have no fucking time. So. That's the bigger deal for me. Finding some time to do all that. Just that Yoda thing made me not want anything to do with it. Because it's like, it would be one thing if people were just like, oh, that's kind of cute, or I like that because of this. But they just went fucking apeshit over it. Just, again, it's like, that's like the mainstream version of an underground, creepy, weird fandom thing. You know what I mean? So you really don't want to have anything to do with these people, if you can help it. Alright, well... Final moments. I think. I'll give it a nice once-over. Thorough look-see before we depart from this particular task. And then what time is it? It's almost 3. Yeah, I don't really see anything particularly objectionable. Speech. Do that. Should probably be moved down a little bit. Otherwise, I think we're good. Better. Oh, well, I was trying to get iquare to tell you about it, but I think he went to bed. I'll read you what he said to me in DMs. Nukes are produced by same code as unit train. The difference is when training done, nuke becomes invisible. It connects to silo even earlier when it starts training. It just doesn't appear on command panel until ready. Also, nuke explosion has unique nuke type. It does not splash like a siege tank. And then he told me that he would be able to look at the code later on. He's gonna need to do that to make it so that nuke kills get awarded to the ghost. But I guess what was tacit, or what was implicit in his explanation there, was that the reason why you didn't see what is it? The reason why the damage doesn't work when you have power overwhelming on is because power overwhelming it's actually a bug, I would assume. It means that power overwhelming doesn't interact with the nuke damage type the same way, because nukes have a whole host of hard code associated with them, but even the weapon does. Like, the weapon deals the greater amount of half of a building's health, or I think it's like 500 damage or something. So either it will deal 500 damage, or it will deal half the building's health. So that's why supply depots last with 1 HP, is because they have 1 armor. And usually they burn down, but there was a bug in earlier versions of Starcraft where they didn't burn down for whatever reason. Oh, it's 2/3? I thought it was half. Because there's like some... Well, I just know that 2 nukes kill any building, so I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be 2/3 or half. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a half, it could be 2/3. Right, even though it has 1500. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, because of the armor. So I guess it is 2/3, or it's more than half at least. I don't know what the exact code is. I think there's like an exe editor or something in Firegraph that lets me that talks about nukes. Yeah, minimum nuke damage is 500. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. Right. So it's whatever, it's bigger. So it doesn't talk about the building thing, but whatever. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, and then Don asked about fraud. We'll do it in 45 minutes or so. I've got to figure out what we're doing first of all. Let me take a look at the poll. It looks like we have an overwhelming majority voting for Brood War, and people are generally trying to play some Halo. I mean, some Hydra. Hydra shit. Well, in that case, we can pretty much take any of the maps that we have currently that are like fully fashioned. So, V-Terrano 1, V-Zergo 1, V-Zergo 2, I guess, V-Protoss 02, I mean 01, and then maybe even V-Terrano 2. We could grab any of those and play the PvP with the latest Hydra stuff. But there was like a desync or something associated with that. If we play without AI, it'll be easier to figure stuff out anyway. Hopefully there's no desync. Alright, well I'm going to go ahead and save this stuff. So we'll do... The fuck? Well, I don't know what the fuck was going on there, but... I hope I did. From the last Fraud Night. Alright, well, while this batch processes for you, ED, I will use the bathroom, and when I get back, I'll just start setting up those maps for Fraud Night. Hi. This is fucking hilarious. It even says the port is open. Ping is about 100. But I can't, it doesn't even let me. Now that's funny. Oh, I just showed my IP address on stream, oh well. It seems like it, but... The fuck? Oh, really? You had the same issue? I'm pretty sure it's not my router anyway. I I don't get it, man. Let's see what happens. I'm asking DF to test. He's never had problems, at least not recently. Meanwhile, I guess I'll just confirm my router real quick. But if the port tester says it's in, then it's... odds are it's fine. Yeah, ports still say that they're open. Good one. Yeah, this is what happens to me, is where I get this new version of software available. Gotta be Windows Update or something. Oh, okay, now it works. Well, anecdotally, after 2 attempts, it seems like I'm actually... So if I can try to connect to Rue Battle first, then I can back out of that once I get the error message and connect to iCut. And why that would be the case, I have no fucking idea. But if you guys had a similar problem, Gamator, and you had you had the pop-up where you couldn't create or join, and it was giving you that error message, I would suggest doing what I did in my registry editor. Going to HKey current user, software, BattleNet configuration, going to BattleNet gateways, and adding ruebattle.net 3, ruebattle.net. And then just trying to connect to that first. When you get the error message, back out, go into iCup and see if it works. It's so asinine that it would work that way. But pretty epic. As for what gets finished first, I've been making the maps in order of... What the fuck? That looks like AIDS. What is that? That's a virus. Who put this virus here? What is this? Why is it 25 megs? Get out of my computer, you piece of shit. Hold on, I'll answer your question in a second. Why? See you later, Ultralisks. Root Battle would be it's like an alternative to iCup, basically, but it doesn't work for me by itself. It might actually work for you guys out of the box, but it gives me an error message. It's just that connecting to that, and then backing out, and then connecting to iCup yielded working results, which doesn't make any sense to me, but it may have something to do with something. Right. So as for your question about the order of events, I'm mostly going to be spending time working with I think this map's already done for multiplayer. I don't really see much of a problem with the setup. It's the free-for-all aspect that makes this map work. Because if it was just the Zerg and the Terrans, obviously the Terrans would have a much stronger start because they would have like combat units and stuff. But the Protoss are there, so if the Protoss are there and the Zerg are not, you know, handled, right? If the Terrans focus on the Zerg, for example, try to rush them down with their starting advantage, the Protoss can use that to their advantage as well. So could happen. The problem is, of course, if all of them converge on the Zerg, that would be a problem. But as far as the campaign's order, I've been doing it in order of like what maps can I make mostly functional with the current tools that I have at my disposal. So we don't have all of the new game state like modifications done. We don't have all the new units in or new abilities or upgrades. We don't have all of the new gameplay rules. Like we still don't have height value in yet. Like the changes to height where they remove the mischance and they make it so that units on a higher ground have shooting down on a ground units that are on high ground have increased range when shooting at units on the low ground on a terrain level lower than them. And that increased range increases by one weapon range for every height level that's a disparity. So you could have 2 weapon range if you were on the highest ground shooting to the lowest ground. And eventually the idea is that we'll have access to make more height levels, so maybe that will end up being even more significant. So stuff like that hasn't been done yet. So because not everything has been done in terms of the game state, I'm mostly focused on trying to make the maps that I can support, that the current tools and game state can support. And those are the early maps, because the later maps have access to more tech and stuff. So there's tons of like little shit like that lying around. So I suppose you could say it's not really random what order they get done in, but it's not exactly in my control either. Oh no, I'm not doing all of the plugin changes and the game state changes. I mean, I'm coming up with the concepts, but the programming is done by iquare. And he's working on his own projects, so I don't have the ability to just have him focus entirely on my stuff. Not I wouldn't even really want to either, because it's better that he's able to get his own stuff done as well, because he's got some really interesting stuff in the works. But yeah, I mean, I'm deciding what to add, and by virtue of the maps requiring certain things, I have some inkling of what's going to be high priority, but you know, who knows how long stuff like that's going to be, so... No, I guess it doesn't really matter if they're not going to be AI. Just get rid of that. Right, yeah. I mean, one of the things that is more broad is the idea of, like, I've had this idea for a little bit. Workers not providing collision while they're moving to mine resources or harvesting resources. Or, like, moving to return resources. Obviously, they currently don't do that now, as it stands, like, they pass through units, but units can still get stuck on them. What I want is you to be able to completely move through as if those units didn't exist. Which is not something that's trivial to implement on a programmatical level, but I think that would improve things. Like, right now, the ways that you can place mineral fields are, if you place your resources in a way where it's going to be, they're like right in the middle of an area where you would normally want to path around. Like this base over here, for example. Like, the pathfinding system isn't intelligent enough to route your units around the workers. So if you have an army here, where I've selected, and you want to get to this ramp in the bottom, and you just right-click there, they're going to try to go through the resources. And I don't think it makes sense to limit your ability to place resources in areas like in this base. I think this is a fine placement of it from the perspective of it's how defendable is it and how attractive is it in terms of amount of money and stuff like that. I think it's fine, but I don't think it makes sense to limit the amount of like resources that are possible to be, or like limit the placement of where it's possible to put these resources. If that makes any sense. Like, it feels really dumb to have to limit resource placement in that way, just because the pathfinding engine can't support it. So that's one of the things that I definitely want to investigate as far as experimentation goes. I think that would lead to some pretty significant improvements. Well, I'm not sure. That sounds like it would be very expensive to do in a computational sense, in order to keep track of all that geometry for every single set of workers and their depot. I also don't really want things to be unintuitive, and I feel like it's hard for players in the middle of playing the game to keep track of that sort of thing. And be like, oh yeah, this is... my units are behaving this way because of triangles, and like... It's very difficult, I think, for people to just be like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what's happening here." So I would be very cautious about that, just because of the chance it has to. Hey. Be very confusing on an intuitive level. I don't know why I was so hell-bent on making it so that the gas and all these bases was low. And how... I had a real knack for wanting to make mineral-only expansions a thing as well. I already did this resource treatment to the other two maps, thankfully. What's going on, NetS? How are you? Hopefully you're doing all right with the whole pandemic thing going on. Oh yeah, I'm not in a rush to get this project done for sure. So time and difficulty has no bearing on the decisions. Like the change that I was talking about where you have height increasing range and removing the cover, it would be so much easier to leave it the way it is. But I think it would be a worse mod, a worse game state as a result. So of course I'm going to change it. And I think I got all the expansions. Did I already do this one? I think I just did that one. Oh, there's two more. This one and then the one right below it. I don't know how your idea would go by comparison, creating the pathfinding triangles, but to me that's like an idea I might visit if the one that I was just talking about earlier proves to be too drastic of a departure from the original game state. I have faith that it'll be okay, but we'll see. I think that's it. I think I got them all. I haven't looked at this map in a while. I feel like the layout is pretty solid, actually. Alright. So then the only thing I'm doing now is an all-player trigger. Foes, exactly 0. Factories. Alright, well, I guess I'll throw these on Mega Drive and get to hosting. If Mega will ever load. Alrighty then. Well, I'm going to get the fuck out of here for just a few seconds so that YouTube can cycle through the VOD and make a new stream for me. And then, so like give me 5 minutes or so. A couple minutes, I'll be back. We'll be doing some fraud night. And I will see you guys then. So, bye.